Hello everybody, welcome to Technique Tuesday. Today we're going to be making a corner squash fold card. It looks like this because basically the corner squashes in. This sample is using the designer series paper that I got from the celebration, but I'm going to actually show you using the Cottage Inn designer series paper, which is in the brand new catalogue. It's very exciting. And of course I'm going to be using the same circles, the same stamps which came from the Circle Sayings set, which does come with a punch, although I used my layering circle dies, and I also used the circle with the stitching from the Stylish Shapes. But this is the card, this is how it works. And let's get on and show you how I got to making it. So it starts with a quarter sheet of cardstock, which is 5.5 by 4.25, and then it also needs a piece of the designer series paper, and this is 6 3/4 by 8. And then we need to do some scoring. Of course, as always, the directions and the dimensions will be in the description box below, but I will show you how we mastered that. So we need to score across the 8-inch top at 2 3/4. So we'll line it up at the 2 3/4. Oh, let me get it into the shot. That's always a helpful step. 2 3/4 on the paper scorer, and using the grey blade, not the black cutting blade, we're going to score up and down 2 3/4, and then we're going to do the same over at the edge of the shorter length, the 6 3/4. So line it up at 2 3/4, and then using the scoring blade we're going to score. What we need to do then is to get the diagonal to go. If I bring in the sample, you can see it a little bit better. This is cut from 5.5 from left across and 5.5 from the top left corner down. So what I want to do is just measure those quickly. So I'm going to line it up at 5.5 and just put a little pencil mark in the trough of the cutter, and then it's from the top left down needs to be 5.5. So we'll put the corner in the trough and find the 5.5 mark over here and just make a little pencil mark. And then what you need to do is score between those two marks. So we're going to put this one in the cutting trough, find the one which is so light in the bottom. I'm trying to get the whole thing into the shot. So we've got this one down here at 5.5 and this one up here at 5.5, and then we're just going to score between the two, and then it should intersect where the two squares came from. So remembering we'd scored across at 2 3/4, so we're now going to fold on that line, give it a good crease, and then we'd scored from this edge in 2 3/4, so we're going to give that a good crease, make sure it's all even. And then what we need to do is find the score mark that we made, but this we're going to fold backwards, sort of away from ourselves. So you can also help, it's very hard to see in the video, but if you put this score line against this score line, it does actually help you line up where you need to be and see where they intersect in the square. So we'll pop that there and go down the score line that we created gently. So if you push those together, they will join up and they will create a little squash fold Just going to hold it in place while I make sure it's really where I want it to be, and give them a good score line. Occasionally the line will stick out a little bit, and rather than refold it and rescore it, I'm literally just going to cheat a little and cut that off. So I'll get my snips and just cut down a wee smidge, because they're all in the trough and we're dealing with 1/16 of an inch and all that good stuff. We just want to make sure that they fit neatly and they get covered over. And there we go. So now what we need to do is we can attach this with its opening onto the body of the cardstock, because it's a 1/4 inch smaller all around, and it's just going to sit on there. Whoops, got a little bit carried away with the sticky. So we'll just make the layer all around so it's all even. Now it just opens up. So you have, this is effectively going to be the inside. So you have somewhere to write. I've just cut a little piece, and it's actually just 2 by 3 3/4. So a little bit of sticky on the back, and it's going to go just over to the left hand side, so when the card closes you can't see it. It's almost like when you open the card, voila, there is the inside. So what I did was I went ahead and I cut out, using the Stylish Shapes dies, I cut a little banner, and then I cut a little overlay piece to fit on it, which is actually 5/8 by 1 5/8. And then I cut a circle using my circle dies, and then I used one of the stitched edge, you can see it in the video, one of the stitched edged circles, again out of the Stylish Shapes, and that's how they're going to be. So using the circle saying stamps, which are great, I'm going to be using the cupcake, and I'm going to be using the happy birthday, because we're going to make it a happy birthday the same. So I'll take the balmy blue. This has a little bit of balmy blue in it, and it helps pick that color out. So I just need to ink it up gently with a tap tap, and then stamp it without getting my head in the shot. That's always the challenge for me. So stamp it on there, a little bit off kilter. Here's one I made earlier. It's very hard to do things that are intricate when your head stands a risk of getting in the way. So the circle sayings, lovely. It's a nice polymer stamp set. So I'm just going to, they peel off and they go onto the acrylic block. You stamp what you need, give them a clean, and then they peel off. So I'm going to pop that back in place in the box, and the acrylic block can just wait off to one side. And then I'm going to use the Night of Navy ink, which coordinates with the cardstock and one of the colours in the designer series paper, and I'm going to stamp the circle. No, I'm going to stamp the cupcake onto the circle. So just like that. Give it a clean. Again, it just peels off and goes back into its place on the box. Easy peasy. And that's that. I then thought it looked a little bit plain, and because we're using blues, it was a little bit hard to add a different colour. So I brought in the alcohol markers, the Stampin' Blends, and I thought, let me just add a little bit of the lightest blue to the frosting, just to give it a little bit of something. And then using the darker balmy blue blends, I'm just going to colour the cupcake case. They're very similar colours, but it's just to give it a little bit of extra. Looks very cool and refreshing. I'm not quite sure if that's what you would want a cupcake to be, but there you go. So we're going to attach the saying to the banner and the circle to the circle, and I'm actually going to use dimensionals just to give it a little bit of extra lift. So we put 2 on the back of there, 4 on the back of the circle so it's supported all around. Quickly peel off the backing papers, flinging them across my stamping room as we speak, and then afterwards it's go hunt the backing papers. Pop that onto the circle, peel the 2 off the back of the happy birthday greeting and pop that on. Then we just need to run a little bit of adhesive down the back and put it into the corner, and then a little bit on the back of the circle, and it goes up in the top squishy. So that's it. It's quite nice and effective. You can put, of course, a square greeting in there, and then when you open it up there's a space for you to sign. I don't think if you were to just you could just sign on the designer series paper, but it just gives it a little extra something, and because it's hidden underneath and it's a 1-layer card, there isn't an inside of this piece, you've got somewhere to sign to your lucky recipient. So that's the card we made. This is the sample that I referenced it from. If you like what you see, please go ahead and subscribe. I always like likes. If there's a comment or a question you need to make, please feel free to put that in the comments below. Like I said, all the instructions and the dimensions will be down there. And last but not least, thanks so much for watching.